This is my response to Garfield Reid, Brother Reid of DaggerSquadInc.com. Brother Reid and I had a live discussion on Facebook on August 14th, 2019, almost 2 years ago. The title of his video was Haile Selassie and Why Ethiopia is Not Ethiopia, Let's Talk. So I was tagged in the video early on by Brother Reid. However, I came in late and I only heard the tail end of what he was saying, maybe at the 15-minute mark. So he was talking about how Marcus Garvey distrusted Haile Selassie and how the disagreement between them was Haile Selassie's fault, and how Haile Selassie actually was considering selling out the people of Eritrea in order to preserve the kingdom of Ethiopia. And he even said that he had French documents to prove that he was negotiating these terms. Now, I've asked him in the video, I've challenged him in the video to present those documents. It's been about 2 years. I have not gotten those documents. And I, to this day, challenge their existence. We know that Mussolini offered Haile Selassie money and real estate in Italy in exchange for Ethiopia, which Haile Selassie outright refused. So at the 20-minute mark, I commented on the video. I said he was explaining the origins of the Kebra Nagast, and I said, you're confusing the Feather Nagast with the Kebra Nagast. So he said, why don't you come on my live and teach me then, if you're so smart, type of deal, right? And by the way, Garfield's been nothing but cordial with me and very friendly. I appreciate the guy, good guy. And I came on his live, and we had the discussion, but as I was trying to dispel these misconceptions about Haile Selassie, he actually introduced me to a theory that I was not aware of at the time 2 years ago, which was that the theory states that Kush has been mistranslated from the Hebrew scriptures to mean Ethiopia, when really it was actually in reference to Nubia or Sudan, and the Kushite Empire actually never extended into modern Ethiopia. Therefore, the translations of the Bible that say Ethiopia instead of Kush are actually inaccurate, and Ethiopia has nothing to do, modern Ethiopia has nothing to do with biblical texts. This is the theory. And Garfield even explains this by pulling up a paper written by Peter Unseth, who was teaching for 8 years at Addis Ababa University linguistics. He then served in a Bible translation project at a church in Ethiopia, and he pretty much goes on to explain the problem of the translation of Hebrew Kush. So I'll leave a link in the description to this paper. You can read it in depth if it interests you. It's not very long. It's pretty informative, pretty interesting stuff. The issue with this theory, however, is, and I was not able to explain this to Garfield because I was not aware of the theory, and also this was my first time on live, so people were actually commenting on this video. There's 726 comments. There were actually people commenting while him and I were discussing, but this was my first time on live, so I didn't realize if I just swiped left, I could see everyone's comments on the screen, but I didn't know how to do that. So as soon as I went live, everyone's comments disappeared, and I didn't know how to pull them back up. So I never responded to any of these comments or, addressed them during the video because I didn't even know people were commenting. And I didn't know how to see them either. Like, I didn't know how to pull them up at the time. But that's okay. The problem with this theory, however, is that the Bible isn't a literal history book. So references to geographical locations in the scriptures are not referencing literal geographical locations in antiquity. So when the Bible says Kush, it's not actually referring to the ancient Kushite Empire that stretched between Egypt and Sudan. The Bible is actually referring to modern-day Ethiopia. Emperor Haile Selassie I was actually born in Ajersa Goro, the village of Ajersa Goro, which is eastern Ethiopia. and he is the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, the God and Father of Jesus Christ. He also accepted and published a version of the Bible translated into Amharic, which translates Kush as Ethiopia in the 1960s. So this idea that Kush has been mistranslated because the Kushite Empire, during its fullest extent, never actually touched parts of modern Ethiopia is incorrect. The Bible is actually written in parables, allegories, and prophecies, and it's not a literal history book describing literal historical geographical locations of antiquity. That's the issue with the argument. I tried to explain this to Garfield in the video. I say something along the lines of, I disagree with you because the Bible is subject to interpretations, but I had to respect him. It was his live, and I had to see where he was going with it. I'll also show you some receipts. I've taken a lot of time off of Facebook because I'm writing a new book, so I haven't been on social media in a while. My Instagram account actually was just reinstated recently because of some homophobic posts that I had a long time ago. So I tried to get back on there to tell people my account was unlocked, but I'm also trying to post on Twitter as much as possible. I haven't been on Facebook in a long time. I will be taking a big break from social media until the book is finished, and I'm planning on finishing it this year, 2021. Today is March 12th, 2021. As you can see, Garfield, very cordial, very respectable individual, told me, 10 days after this video, 11 days after this video was made, he said, let's set up tomorrow afternoon if you want to do it again. I said, that's no problem. He said the next day he was tied up. It wasn't a good time. I told him, whenever you're ready, my man, we can discuss these things. And then he asked me if I could do this on YouTube, and I said anytime. So haven't talked to him since. I've been off of Facebook since. No replies from him since. We're all very busy. There was a pandemic. I understand, but that is my response. My response is that the Bible is not talking about the literal historical, geographical empire of Kush from antiquity. It's actually prophetically speaking about modern day Ethiopia. Many of the places, almost all of the places mentioned in the Bible, are not speaking about historical locations. Geographical regions in the Bible usually denote a certain level of understanding.
Hey, on a different note though, can you imagine a white boy coming to me as a Jamaican and saying, I'm a Rastafarian? Can you imagine that shit, bro?
You tripping.
Yo, I'm like, what the blood clot? Yo.
He tripping, man. I seen a dude that was on it. He tripping about that.
Yo,
like,
that shit is funny as hell though. But he does, but he's smarter than them though. He's smarter than them. He actually using real history. He said Solomon don't exist.